Hello, everyone, and welcome to the online lecture, Social Entrepreneurship and Emerging Opportunity for Young People. My name is Maria Dimitrovska from Development Solutions, and I'll be the presenter of today's webinar. The webinar you're attending is a part of a series of webinars organized in the frame of the project promoting webinar-based youth non-formal education in Southeast Europe. The project is under implementation by three organizations: Development Solutions from Macedonia, Institute of Entrepreneurship Development from Greece, and Foundation 42 from Bulgaria. The project is supported by the Erasmus Plus program of the European Union. In the frame of the project, we organized a series of webinars on different topics like employability, civic activism, social entrepreneurship, multiculturalism. So if you find today's webinar interesting, you may want to follow us for a few other updates and other webinars, or attend the webinars organized by our partners. So before we start with the presentation, I would like to mention just a few rules of conduct for the webinar session. As it was indicated in the invitation email you received, the necessary equipment for participation is a camera, a headset, meaning earphones and microphone. Of course, you can join from a personal computer, but also from any type of smart device, so a tablet or a smartphone would do just fine. Another thing is, maybe you've noticed when you join the webinar session that all participants are automatically muted. This is for practical reasons, just not to have situations when a microphone is accidentally turned on and we hear background noises from other participants. So if you want to pose a question or give a comment, you can use the raise a hand tool, which is on the right side of your screen, or write a message in the chat tool. We will test the functionality of our headsets in a short while. The chat tool has an option for both public and private conversations, so you can send messages that will be seen by all participants, or you can chat privately with certain participants. Of course, use the public feature only in the cases when you have a message or question that might be interesting or concerns all participants. Of course, you can pose a question or give a comment anytime throughout the webinar session, but take in regard that there will be a designated question and answer session for discussion at the end of the presentation. Of course, I have to mention that this webinar is being recorded for administrative reasons. What I want to know now is, we're going to do a small poll. I want to see how many of you have participated in a webinar before. So a little box is going to appear on your screens. Let us see how many of you have attended webinars previously. We will have several polls like this throughout the webinar session. And bear in mind that the answers I'm receiving here are only group answers. So whatever your response is, it is completely anonymous. Now I've received a message from Violca Bakiu that there is a problem and she cannot hear us. So I will like to ask my colleague from the office to contact Violca and see if they can resolve this technical issue. So yes, the results are interesting. Many of you have attended webinars before. I hope this means that you find webinars an interesting and engaging way to learn, and a convenient way to learn. I hope you will find this webinar interesting as well. The topics we're going to discuss today, this is primarily an introductory lecture into what is social entrepreneurship, why is it so popular in the recent years, what are the main features of social enterprises, how are social enterprises developed, which are the opportunities for young people in social entrepreneurship, which are the trends and challenges, and of course, at the end, we will list several global examples of successful social enterprises, but also some local. You can join in and mention some social enterprises which are successful from your country as well. So social entrepreneurship has been experiencing increasing prominence and popularity in recent decades, despite the fact that this is not a new idea. Some of the initial forms of social enterprises are dating as back as the 19th century. However, in the last few decades, the number of social enterprises operating in the social economy, meaning associations, foundations, charities, which have different legal status, has increased. Due to this fact, in some countries, social enterprises have a special legal status, have institutions that are mandated to promote and support social entrepreneurship. They have a series of tax releases, so it has become a concept that has been perceived as important and valuable even by the governments. What is a social enterprise? In essence, it is an effort to realize the aim to create a change in the community through a business, or creating a sustainable change in our community. The European Commission gives us a definition of social enterprises as operators in the social economy whose main objective is actually to create social impact instead of creating profit. So these operators function by providing goods and services on the market, but also they use the profit primarily to achieve social objectives. Of course, there's another dimension, the way the social enterprises are managed, which is different from the way the usual for-profit enterprises are managed. So now we will go through the three dimensions of social enterprises. The first is the entrepreneurial dimension. This means that these are organizations that operate on the market. They produce certain goods or provide services at market rates, but the profit they gain is not distributed among shareholders, but is allocated towards achieving a social aim. For example, what can the social aim be? Helping marginalized groups, social inclusion for certain vulnerable groups, or creating a positive change regarding the environment, anything that is perceived as a problem in the community. The third and important dimension of social enterprises is their managerial dimension. They have a democratic management system which protects the social mission of the organization, which means that these enterprises are managed in a way that involves the input and the participation not only of all the employees, but also other relevant stakeholder groups, for example, beneficiaries or clients or fellow organizations working in the same field. We have another definition that gives us another dimension of the social enterprises. The European Research Network defines social enterprises as private organizations that do not function on the basis of profit, yet they gain profit. They offer goods and services which are directly tied to their explicit goal to work for the good of the community. And these enterprises are managed based on the collective dynamics of different groups of stakeholders, which are involved both in managerial bodies, which protect the autonomy of the organization and bear the economic risks. So in this sense, it is important to make a distinction between profit, non-profit, and non-for-profit organizations. Profit organizations are the classical business enterprises, as we know them. They operate on the market, they gain profit, they reinvest it or redistribute it among the shareholders. Non-profit organizations are organizations that do not operate for gaining profit. These are mainly civil society organizations, associations of citizens, while not-for-profit organizations are organizations that operate in the market. So it means they offer different goods and services on the market, but the profit they gain is generally and to the most part allocated for social programs or other activities that aim to help resolve a problem in the community. There are different forms of social enterprises depending on the country and the existing legislation, the existence of an enabling environment, but we can list some of the more common organizational forms. So social enterprises can be volunteer organizations that provide services, or self-help groups that try to find and employ a new innovative ways in their operations. Social incubators that experiment with new strategies for integration and local development. Here we can find also cooperatives that function as social enterprises. There are other forms of organizations which are not profit-based but are engaged in provision of social services, also charities, foundations, centers, but also associations and foundations which have established commercial enterprises to gain income for their social mission. Social enterprises are usually initiated or developed on the basis of the idea and motivation of social entrepreneurs. Who are social entrepreneurs? These are persons which are primarily driven by the aim to instigate change in their communities. They may be business-oriented. They may be very experienced entrepreneurs, but the main aim of their endeavor is to actually tackle a social problem. These persons are generally oriented towards learning and learning about new experiences in order to create innovative solutions in their communities. Many times these innovative solutions are not genuine novelty. They do not create a new object or service. They often just learn and adapt ready-made solutions to the local context, but it requires openness and eagerness to learn and orientation towards different perspectives of the social problems that exist in a community. Social entrepreneurs often employ social innovations in order to make their social enterprises sustainable and both effective in achieving their social aim. So social innovations is a process of development of new and innovative solutions to social needs. These activities and services represent a result of the aim to address a social need. You see that there are people that are homeless or that are poor, or there is a problem regarding everyday life in their community. So you think about the problem and contemplate a solution which is then implemented and disseminated among organizations which have social goals. So in this way, we have to, in this context, we have to make a distinction between social innovation and business innovation. While social innovation primarily addresses social aims, the way things are done in a community, the way social problems are solved, business innovation is primarily driven by gaining of profit. So social innovation employed in social enterprises tries to meet in the middle. You want to find an innovative way to ensure sustainability and secure funding for your operations in the social economy. The key dimensions of social innovations are they're rarely a genuine novelty and usually represent a combination of previously developed solutions instead of being completely new ideas. Often their realization and conceptualization surpasses both organizational, sectoral, and disciplinary boundaries. So it means that it requires stronger cooperation and connections between persons and groups which have not cooperated or been connected before. Social innovations, as such, pass through several developmental stages. First, you perceived a problem that is present and burdening your community, whether this is a new, an unidentified problem, or it is a problem that has been perceived as such, but there have not been any efforts to resolve it, or the existing means for its resolution are simply inadequate. The second phase involves development of solutions for addressing the problems. This means that you assess what has been done so far and you contemplate and deliberate on different solutions that might be applicable and might be effective in resolving this social problem. Of course, the next stage involves evaluation of the effectiveness of the solutions, but also, if the solutions prove effective, we turn to expansion or growth of the innovation. In this sense, the aim of social entrepreneurs and their orientation towards social innovations is not just to change their way of addressing problems, but to create a general change in their communities about how to deal with a specific problem, to disseminate the solution to as many persons and groups, and to create a stronger basis for initiation of an effective social change. We have another typology of social enterprises. According to the field of interest, for example, we have 3 different groups of social enterprises. The first group involves social enterprises that provide different services to socially excluded groups or provide services which are of public interest. For example, care for the disabled, or child care, or help in the house. The second group involves social enterprises that work on social inclusion of marginalized groups. For example, social enterprises that organize different training for skills, retraining of workers, employment programs, or apprenticeship programs. And the third group is the social enterprises that operate in the non-traditional so-far sectors, like, for example, problems related to local development or issues related to the protection of the environment, involving recycling of materials, etc. Now, we're going to check what you have remembered from what we spoke so far. And there are going to be 2 questions on the next box you will see on your screens. The first one is: social enterprises are non-profit organizations, not-for-profit organizations, or profit organizations. Please give the answer you think is correct. The second question is: a large corporation decides to donate financial means to a center that provides shelter to homeless people. Is this company a social enterprise? What do you think? We are waiting for just a few more participants to contribute their answers. And now we're going to close the poll. So I'm going to share the results and comment the results. All of you who responded that social enterprises are not-for-profit organizations are correct. For those of you who did not respond correctly, social enterprises are not-for-profit organizations due to their dual nature. On the first aspect is that they operate on the market, so they sell certain products or give services for which they receive compensation. They earn profit, but this profit is then allocated, distributed for realization of programs or activities that aim to improve the community. So they have social aim. Regarding the second question, is this large corporation a social enterprise? The ones of you that responded no are correct. This type of behavior of the corporation may be called corporate responsibility, but it's not, this company is not a social enterprise per se. So many companies can have different programs to contribute to the community, but social enterprises are different, not just because they implement such programs, but because a large majority or all of its profits are allocated towards these aims, which is not the case with for-profit organizations. And the second one is the way the enterprise is managed. There are no boards or bodies that have exclusive right to decide on the direction of development of the enterprise, but the process is more involving, inclusive, and democratic. So I will stop sharing the results and I will return to the presentation. We move on to the next part, development of social enterprises. Usually, social enterprises are bottom-up initiatives, which means that they emerge as a result of individuals or groups' perception of pressing and existing local problems which need to be tackled, and finding innovative and sustainable ways for combating these problems. These are generally developed and initiated among individuals or groups that share this common goal. They all agree that there is a certain problem in the community, like youth unemployment or, for example, lack of services for the elderly. And they want to find a way to create a sustainable solution for tackling this problem. So they may, I will give a small example, problem of homeless animals in the streets. So there are individuals and groups that perceive the problem as pressing and needs immediate action. How are they going to tackle the problems? They may, for example, work on providing shelter for homeless animals, but in order to raise money, they may resort to selling animal food or different pet accessories to pet lovers, which then, knowing the mission of the social enterprise, will be even more motivated if they know that the money they pay for the goods they buy in the company are further donated to help other animals. When considering about whether a social enterprise idea should be put in a realization, you have to take in regard several factors. First of all is the legal framework, whether your country has a specific law that regulates the operation of social enterprises. In my country, there is no law regarding social enterprises, and there has been some draft law from 2015, which has been sitting in some drawer and has never, the procedure has not been initiated so far. Related to the legal framework is the existence of an enabling environment. Are there general policies or institutions which work on promotion and development of social entrepreneurship in your country? The third factor is related to the social cultural context. So is there a culture of community engagement? Social enterprises are less likely to emerge in communities which do not have that type of tradition and culture involving um, citizens and uniting citizens in joint actions that aim to improve the community. Of course, the existence of entrepreneurial culture is also important because we are thinking about an endeavor which um, will operate on the market and should not only create sustainability for the business, but should also create access means to fund the social mission of the enterprise. So in this sense, you need to have a good knowledge of the national context. We mentioned that before, the legal framework, policy framework, whether there is an enabling environment or not, the other factors which we mentioned a few minutes ago. But also to consider the general stakeholder groups which are related to your social enterprise idea. Which are the groups and individuals which may be directly or indirectly targeted by your enterprise? What is their attitude towards your endeavor? Will they be supportive, or they will simply ignore your effort, or they will try to sabotage your effort? Which are your potential clients? For example, you want to sell goods and services. For example, the example I gave earlier, you want to sell pet accessories and pet food to pet owners. Well, the potential clients are pet owners, and you need to find them. So you need to market yourself effectively in order to promote your idea and create a client base. Of course, the beneficiaries, their attitudes and interest to take part in your social programs. In this sense, it is important to establish good relations with all relevant stakeholders at the local and national level. As I've mentioned previously, in certain countries, there are state institutions mandated to support the development of social enterprises. In my country, there is no specific law regarding social enterprises, but there are several institutions, ministries, the Ministry of Labor and Social Policy, and other state agencies that have started to promote the idea of social entrepreneurship and to provide certain support to future social entrepreneurs. Of course, motivation is incredibly important because initiating and creating a successful social enterprise is a very difficult effort, especially if you consider that not only you should be profitable on the market in order to continue to produce goods and services and to offer them on the market, but also to create extra profit, extra value to fund all other activities that have social aims. So of course, you would need to think about a good and effective business idea. A general problem among all new entrepreneurs is they're very rigid about their business idea. It's either or, but what contributes to a more successful endeavor is having a dose of flexibility in the process. You will see that some things work and some things are less effective, and your business idea may be adapted or utterly changed by the start of your social enterprise. Of course, innovation is very important when you're trying to solve old problems and create new means to solve them. Innovation is not only referred as creating something genuinely new, but also learning, contacting and experiencing, getting to know different good practices in order to make a good combination of existing ideas and to adapt them to the local context. Competition is also very important to take in regard because you're going to participate on the market and offer your goods and services on market rates and compete with for-profit organizations and enterprises. So in some cases, Many business ideas are based on the fact that someone has perceived that there is a sphere that has not been covered by the competition. Uh, Often the lack of competition is a good indicator that this is perhaps not the best zone to enter if you're a new and inexperienced entrepreneur, that there is a specific reason why there is a lack of competition in some sphere. Of course, you would have to um, analyze and think about all the individuals and groups which may have strong interest or connection or influence regarding to your business endeavors. So this involves not only the personnel and their capacities, but also the clients, the donors, the community, the suppliers, but also partners and beneficiaries. So what you need to think about is which are their interests, what will be their involvement in your social enterprise, as well as how will your social enterprise impact each of these groups, how their characteristics can impact the success of your initiative is what you need to think about. Apart from analyzing all the groups that and individuals that operate in your environment and can have an impact on your social enterprise, you should also take in consideration your internal capacities, actually, whether you need the resources needed to start your social enterprise, and of course, see whether they're available or secured. Which relevant skills and experience will you need in your enterprise? Are there any needs for capacity building of your existing personnel? Of course, the process of decisions regarding the financial model is of crucial importance. Whether your social enterprise will be started by your own means, or you will apply for bank loans, or in the case of social enterprises, it is very common case, you will apply for donor funding, something for which many for-profit enterprises are not eligible. All these analyses can be easily, more effectively conducted if you already know the mechanisms to convey them. So one aspect is the SWOT analysis, which provides an overview of the strengths and weaknesses of your existing capacities, meaning what you will work with, but also to analyze the opportunities and trends of the external environment you're going to operate in. Of course, here we have the past analysis, which analyzes different groups of factors, political, economic, social, and technological factors that may impact your endeavor. Strengths relate to things that we can do well, or things that we excel at, things that we're better than our competition. Weaknesses are related to areas that need attention and should be improved, whether this is lack of qualified personnel or lack of financial means to start the effort. This is quite an effective way to have an overview of what you need and what you're missing in creating your social enterprise. Opportunities relate to the external factors, external possibilities that may and should be used to excel in your business endeavor. And the threats relate to potential problems or risks that can have different level of influence regarding the success of your social enterprise. Past factors, as I previously mentioned, are political, economic, social, cultural, and technological. So when you consider about political factors, you think about government stability, the existence of an enabling and supportive legal framework. When regarding the economic factors, you are also interested in seeing market trends, tax laws, inflation, social cultural factors related to primarily what is the demographic and psychographic profile of your clients and beneficiaries. So what are their habits, what type of buyers are they, what type of services and goods are they interested in, and of course technological factors which relate to, are there new technologies that can promote your business or can jeopardize your business endeavor. If you're planning to start a social enterprise that is based on printing of a magazine, you should take in consideration that um, many new technologies, due to the technological development, many new readers prefer online reading instead of buying a paper magazine. Testing, of course, once you have analyzed all these different aspects, it's important to create a small-scale experiment to see whether your idea can be turned to reality. It is very important because it should give an overall indication of whether your business idea would be sustainable on the market on one side, and whether it can help you achieve your social mission on the other. This can also influence your whole business idea and your business plan, and may make you reconsider certain aspects related to the potential market, the competition, of course, demographics and the psychographics of your target audience. All of these aspects are usually drafted in a business plan. So social enterprises, as any other enterprises, require or should be preceded by a good business plan. The business plan is a must, especially if you're in the process of applying for funding. So in the process of development of the business plan, you analyze all these different aspects I mentioned and more. Requires diligent research, requires collection of quality information to be able to facilitate an effective planning process. So, but also the business plan is very good for crystallizing the idea of what the mission and the vision of your company would be, which problem you're going to target, what product or service you will offer in the market, what type of competition will you be met with. The business plan is very effective in communicating your idea to relevant stakeholders, especially if you rely on donor funding for funding your social enterprise endeavor. Having an effective business plan is objective and effective business plan is crucial. The business plan is also going to help you develop different operational plans, financial plans. It will give you a structured overview of everything you need and you possess, and as a individual or leader of a group of people that want to create a social enterprise, and to help you guide you throughout the execution of your idea. Now we will mention several successful social enterprises on a global level. The first one you may have heard of, it's Grameen Bank by Muhammad Yunus. It is usually the first thing that comes to people's minds, especially to the ones that work in social entrepreneurship when we mention this term. Muhammad Yunus was an entrepreneur from Bangladesh who was especially stricken by the poverty of certain layers, social classes in Bangladesh, and saw that there is actually very small likelihood that these groups could ever be able to exit their condition of poverty, to improve their position in society, to their social mobility is very restricted. So what he thought of is of providing small loans of about $27 to each of the applicants, the persons that applied for a loan, in order for them to buy certain goods that they would sell on the streets. These loans were given at very small interest rates, But he saw an emerging potential in this market, I would say, among this group. He saw that people were very diligent in returning the money they borrowed, and later on they started thinking entrepreneurially. So several people would group and apply for a loan together, and then buy more products and sell them at higher profit in the streets. So he founded Grameen Bank to support his endeavor. The bank was founded in 1983. The whole microfinancing endeavor of Muhammad Yunus was so successful that he was credited and given the Nobel Peace Prize in 2006. For the past 30 years, he has also been involved in several different social entrepreneurial initiatives, also with for-profit companies like French Danone. They produced yogurts and different other dietary products that were produced in factories which employed persons from marginalized groups, that involved free distribution of goods to the most needy. So there are several other areas that he has been involved in as social entrepreneur. The second example of a successful social enterprise is also very known. It's Ashoka, which was founded by Bill Triton. Ashoka is a social enterprise that works on supporting social enterprises globally. So they provide all different types of support to emerging social entrepreneurs. And this is a bit old data, but until 2010, there were more than 2,000 social entrepreneurs from all around the world that received support through Ashoka's work. Another example is Better World Books company, which was founded in 2002, which reuses or recycles old books. The books that are reused are sold online, and of course the recycled books are used to print new books. All the profits of the organization are allocated for funding literacy programs in different parts of the United States. Another very interesting social enterprise is Chance, which was founded in 2006 after a vacation the founder had in Argentina, where he saw people living in slums and ghettos where they don't even have shoes, and children that live without shoes. So his company was based on the idea that for every pair of shoes that the customers bought, another pair is going to be donated to the ones that need it most. The idea proved successful, so they have expanded their actions into selling eyeglasses as well. So if you buy eyeglasses from them, they will donate another pair of eyeglasses to persons that need it. Now I'm going to mention a few examples from my country. The first one is Face to Face magazine. All the participants that are coming from Skopje may know the sellers of this magazine, which was established in 2013. It's a very quality bi-monthly magazine, which is sold by members of marginalized groups and homeless people. So half of the price is allocated to maintaining the magazine and its operations, but the other half you pay is going directly to the distributors of the magazine, the persons that need it most. And of course, part of the profits are allocated to funding literacy and other skills building programs for marginalized groups. And another example of a pretty successful social enterprise idea is Pokrov, which is a rehabilitation center which runs a program for treatment against drug abuse, alcohol, and hazard games. And it is based in Strumica. The beneficiaries of the program are all engaged in the social enterprise. They work in organic farming, and they produce and sell products in the market. The revenues of the sales are used to finance the operations of both the enterprise, but also of the rehabilitation center. So Pokrov so far is a self-sustaining model of a social enterprise and is supported and enjoys the support of the local community. At this stage, my presentation ends. I would like to thank you for your attention. I would like to just remind you that if you find webinars interesting, or if this webinar was interesting to you, you can follow our website, www.prowebc.org, where we post information about upcoming webinars by Development Solutions and the other project partners, but also by other organizations throughout Europe and the world that organize educational webinars. So there are information about universities that organize webinars or other private organizations that organize webinars on different topics. If you're interested in seeing what we have done so far, you can check out our recorded webinars on our YouTube channel, ProWebC Project. And if you want to receive updates on social media, you can follow us on Facebook. The name of the page is ProWebC. At the end of the presentation, I just want to ask you to conduct one last poll regarding your experience and participation in the webinar. So another small box is going to appear on your screens, asking you about your experience and participation in this webinar. We have a majority of the participants responding. Okay, I will end the polling and share the results. I'm glad that social entrepreneurship is a topic that is of interest to you, and of course glad that you want to participate in other webinars. So stay tuned and follow our pages to receive information regarding different webinars organized by us, but also by many other organizations.